Good Morning Wilmington is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service. Moving forward.
Good morning, Wilmington. Good morning, Wilmington. I say good morning, Wilmington. Wake up, y'all. Come on, have a great day. Ooh.
Good morning, Wilmington. What's going on? It's your main man, Big Ivan, talking to town, Mr. DETV, CH.com, Mr. Positivity. And today I have a special guest, a filmmaker like no other. Diane Robinson is here to talk more about her new, proclaimed, amazing movie, The Young Vote. Ms. Robinson, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me tonight.
Thank you for coming. For people that don't know you, would you like to shine a little bit of light on who Diane Robinson is?
Yeah. So I am a regular kid. I mean, I was raised as a regular kid in Brooklyn,
right.
And I first generation college grad. I feel like going to Vassar College when I was pretty young was a real game changer for me, and I think it made me realize the role that education played in my life once I graduated, and I saw the opportunities that I had from that. And I spent the bulk of my adult life really working in education in low-income communities. I started teaching in Compton when I was 23 years old, and then I worked in leadership roles for education nonprofits, working and impacting communities all over the country, including here.
Right.
And I reached a point where I wanted to make bigger and bigger impact.
Right.
And that led me to filmmaking because I wanted to reach more people.
Okay.
And I think, storytelling, film can be a great way to make an impact.
Right.
Because it can help you communicate with not just a bigger audience, but it can help you tell stories that help shift the way people think about things.
All right. So you go from Brooklynite to Compton to filmmaking.
Yes.
Compton teaching and then filmmaking. What do you enjoy about filmmaking?
So, it's interesting because I think I was a storyteller before I became a filmmaker.
Right.
And I think it's like growing up in a black family, in black communities, you're around a lot of people who are telling you stories, right? It's how a lot of our culture and our traditions are passed down.
Right.
And I think when I worked in the education community, really for 20 something years, a huge part of my job was to figure out how to, raise resources, fundraise for the organizations I worked with.
Right.
And the way I did that was to tell stories about
our
work.
Especially in a nonprofit, the 501c3, you better be a storyteller.
You have to, because you need to figure out how to connect with other people.
Right.
To, to really communicate what you're about, what your organization is about, and figure out a way to connect with them.
Right.
And what they believe and what they're trying to accomplish as philanthropists.
Right.
So really, for me, storytelling was it was a leap to do it in a different platform, right? Like filmmaking, the process of filmmaking, now that I've actually been through it, from, coming up with the idea for the film and then finding the characters and, using my old skills of fundraising to figure out how to make the film, hiring the team to do it, as you know.
And it's a beautiful film.
Thank you.
It is the message on point. Plot on point, but most of all, I'm looking at it as a producer and a director's eye, shot extremely well.
Thank you very much.
From the score to everything. I didn't mean to cut you off. I just got excited.
No, my composer was one of my greatest collaborators, actually. On
was it?
Yeah, she really got the idea of what I was trying to do and who I wanted to reach, which was young people. And I think the music was almost like another character in the film for me.
And it always is, right? It's always is. The Young Vote. Let's hop right on into that. What made you produce it? First of all, is The Young Vote your first film?
It's my first film.
No, that's not your first film.
It was my first.
There's no way that's
your first
film.
You know what I did? I did actually help the director, Davis Guggenheim, when I was working in education, choose some of the young people that he followed in one of his films.
Okay.
So I guess I was a scout, a production scout for him. So I was pretty good at like finding good people that people would want to listen to.
And you did that.
Thank you.
Yeah. You can't I'm still not believing that's your first film.
I swear.
No. And the film, and let's talk about what the film is, because before we tell everybody where it's playing, because I'm super excited that it's playing on that platform.
Yes.
And that's especially be your first film. So The Young Vote, boom. What exactly is The Young Vote?
So The Young Vote it's a feature documentary. It's a little over an hour. The longer version, the version that the broader audience will see is about a little bit less, but it follows young people through the 2020 election, a really diverse group of young people that live in different states. I wanted to answer the question of why young people were not voting in higher numbers. We saw what happened in 2016 when the young vote was at like 39% of young people between the ages of 18 and 29 turned out to vote. And I didn't understand that.
Right.
As somebody who had worked with young people the majority of my adult life, who were doing some of the toughest jobs in the country as teachers in low-income communities and leaders, I knew they cared. Right. So I didn't understand that gap between knowing that young people care and knowing that they understand that the political system, well, many of the ones that I had worked with, is connected to their lives and the lives of the kids they taught and the communities they served. So I needed to understand why young people were not voting in higher numbers. And I knew it would be complicated. And I wanted to get diverse perspectives. I wanted to go to different states. So we ended up following a group of students and activists through 2020, the year, which, I didn't know it when I started making the film, but it turned into a global pandemic, and there was quite a bit of social unrest, as you know.
Yeah. Were you shocked at any information that you found like during filming? Sometimes as filmmakers we get into it, right, and we were like, oh my gosh, and some things live with you and haunt you at night. Did that happen? Did anything like that happen to creating this film?
Absolutely. I mean, a couple, and you'll see it in the film, a couple of the young people were protesting quite a bit during 2020. And, I stayed in touch with them. I had to do a lot of the shoots remotely because of COVID. They filmed on their phones. I used archival footage. So it was a mix of footage. But, I was constantly in communication with many of them and trying to figure out the right shoot dates based on what was going on in their lives. But a few of them were hurt during some of the protests.
I saw that, yeah.
And it was hurtful to me as a filmmaker who had gotten pretty close to, these young people. I mean, I ended up following them over a year and a half of their lives. And, since we, started getting the film out in the world, it's now been 4 years that I've known them. So I actually care about them a lot. And so it really hurt me to see that, they were these young people who wanted to stand up and speak up and be active in their communities and speak up for others, and, the two of them, one was arrested and another was hurt by some rubber bullets by the police. So that really stuck with me. And I think I just learned a lot. I learned a lot from them about the party system, what inspires them about that or not. They're not inspired. You'll see that in the film. And, but they want to vote. The young people I followed definitely want to vote. I think there was one young woman in the film when she started out she was not convinced voting was like the best way to make a difference in her community. I'll let you watch the film to figure out what she does, but I think that they represent a group of people who I think they represent a lot of their generation, right? They care, they want to make a difference, and a lot of the young people view protesting, being active online and social media, and being activists as being a way to make a difference. I wasn't raised that way. You know what I mean? Like, I was raised in a generation of people who were told because we were very connected. I'm Gen X, and it was we knew what the generation before us had to go through, to get us the right to vote.
The history, that's one of the things that came up in the conversation was we knew our history.
That's right. And so you knew people died for you to get the right to vote.
Yeah.
So that was your duty, was to vote. And, now today people are saying that's your Black job, right?
Yeah,
your Black job is to vote. I think this generation of young people, here's the reality. The young vote's going up. Right. Especially since 2018.
Yeah.
Right. So I think they're starting to make the connection between the issues they care about, making a difference in their communities, and getting involved in the political
That's it right
system.
there. Yeah, those three steps right there. Right.
But I think they're learning it in a different way than we did.
How so?
Well, I think we were taught, go and vote. That's it. You're good.
Right.
As Ariana says, that doesn't actually make you a beautiful citizen.
Right.
Right. Like, you actually need to stay involved.
Right.
Beyond going to the voting booth. And that shifted the way I think about being a citizen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I actually think in many ways they are citizens. Right. It's just, the other part of it too, and I didn't even know this as somebody who had worked in the education field for decades, that civics is a huge problem in our schools right now.
Yeah.
I had a government class in high school. Like, I still remember that teacher. I learned all about the 3 branches of government. Like, it got me interested. Right. And I realized, okay, you've got to vote in state, local elections, just like you need to vote in the national elections. And that's not necessarily being taught. In our schools anymore.
I agree, because when I was in high school, that wasn't a thing, right? Civics and home ec was non-existing, right?
Oh, interesting.
And those are things that made us who we are today. So when you have my generation, then right after my generation, there's a generation that's now inundated with with social media, too much content, right? And your attention span is shorter. And you're getting now everyone is an expert, a subject matter expert. 1, you don't know what to believe. 2, the stuff that taught us to be good humans is non-existing. So only thing that you have now to listen to, and I am, since being in media, I totally understand the neurological connections that sound, music, film, programming can make on a human being. And now we have a generation that's being brought up with all this, hey, watch this.
Look at this.
Look at this. I'm over here, right? The shiny carrot.
Yeah.
And they don't know what to believe. So it becomes more of a witch's brew that now the next generation, the generations coming up, is like, I'm not even going to do it because I don't have to.
Yeah. I mean, it's why I think film is so powerful. Right. Because, Jim Henson figured this out with Sesame Street, right?
Let me hear you say it, because we were talking about it the other day.
Schoolhouse Rock.
Oh, see?
Think about it.
Okay.
You know how a bill becomes a law.
A bill on top of a hill, right?
There you go.
Let me hear you about that Jim Henson, because I was just telling someone about it.
Yeah. So it took me going through 20 years of being in the education world and trying to figure out, how do I make bigger and bigger impact?
Right.
And when I got to grad school, I was studying system change.
Okay.
Right. Everybody talks about system change, but I actually was like, no, what does it really mean?
Right.
And, I learned from one of my professors, really shifted the way I thought about just even how we're going to make a big impact in education is laws, policies, all of those things matter, right? Curriculum, who you're recruiting, all of those things. But if you don't get at the underlying beliefs that people have in groups, societies, countries, guess what? Those laws and policies only do so much, right? It's like when they changed the voting laws to allow people like you and I to vote.
Right.
Guess what? Black people went to the polls and they were like, okay, how many jelly beans in these jars? Recite the Constitution. Because the poll workers still didn't believe you and I should have the right to vote.
Right.
So that was something I became obsessed with.
Right.
And while I was in grad school, I came across an organization that was using films as a way to change beliefs, right? And they called it giving young people a peak experience. So you might come in with a belief about gender equality, like men and women are not equal, and maybe they show the film Malala, right? Or you know, you don't believe genocide can happen, and they show Hotel Rwanda,
Right.
it changes the way they think about it. But then you have to keep having conversations with someone about that film. And ideally in schools, they're also using it as a way to reinforce something they want young people to learn. And I think the ultimate way to change people's beliefs is to take that new exposure that you have, whether it's from a film or something else, and have them apply it in their own context, right? And especially with young people, it's how they learn best, I think. So I actually think starting with what they care about, those issues, and then helping them, you know, exposing them to films like mine, where it's like, actually, young people, it's part of the reason why I made this film is because I really wanted to help shift that narrative. That's out there that they don't care. Like, I wanted to show the world, like, actually, there are a lot of young people that care. Right? And here's why they care. And here's how they get involved in the political system. So I think there are ways to, like, use go Jim Henson on it, right?
Speak about that.
You know, well, I think Jim Henson, Sesame Street was so powerful, right? Like, it was a way to teach us as young people certain beliefs about, I mean, I still remember watching Sesame Street, being kind, you know, to your like Mr. Rogers did it. You know what I mean? This man in his little red sweater that you would watch every day after school, who was so nice and so kind and was like teaching us how to like treat your neighbor. I mean, those things are powerful.
It was Jim Henson. What I found fascinating about Jim Henson is how he used the science of it, right?
That's right.
Of how the old puppeteers used to be in this thing, and it'll show just the head, or was it the whole bot? No, just the head of it. And there's a guy under there with the, you know, marionette under there, blah, blah, blah. But Jim Henson said, what if we can make the TV the box? Make the puppet the three-dimensional object? And that was the thing that grabbed our attention. And then learned with that, that's where we learned. And that's why I'm so fascinated about the science of film. I'm just like you.
Well, there's a way that we all learn, right?
Yes.
And I mean, he was ahead of his time in so many ways. But I think one of the things that really struck me when I was still working in education is, you know, maybe even 10, 15 years ago, I feel like my friend Paul would know this very well. Everyone was talking about the kids are going to go online. Everything is going online. This was way before COVID.
This is years ago.
Jobs are going online. AI is going to take over. Like, this was
Skynet.
I mean, and it sounded crazy 20 years ago. But we were thinking about it, right? And then, like, just before COVID, and all of this learning had come together for me after 20 years of working on the ground and then studying systems. I'm like, I have to get online. Like, I have to figure out how to, because that's 70% of young people were there way before COVID. So we just have to adapt.
Way before COVID, I remember in 2013, I started this in 2011. I remember reading an article that said in the next 8 years, the internet would be a business. If a business didn't have a website, they didn't exist, and that media would be at least 85% of someone's daily intake. And it's the truth. It is the truth, right? And you know, you're living in it. COVID was the thing that pushed everything fast forward. And with that, we have students that weren't getting the education, but are getting entertained. So I believe that if we have this form of media and social media as platforms to get the media out there and make it entertaining, that now, like you say, with the law and the spirits, and consistency, that's where we can make change. But we first need to find out what the students want. You know, what are they into? Like tonight's conversation is like, okay, what do you want out of school? How many, you know, raise your hand. Okay, you just voted. You know, that's simple. And it's different. I think that when we start talking at 10,000 feet and finding out what interests them, that's where your movie can now be the consistency part of saying, oh my God, I see a little bit more now. I see, it's that hunch that you get in your belly, like, oh, I remember I saw this film. And this film, you know, now I voted for school lunches, or I voted for a school program. Now I'm in college and I'm joining creating a civics association in college, or not even in college. How about do we have unions anymore? right? You know, a union. Like I could be involved in a union, and oh shoot, this is my community now.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting too. Tonight's discussion was good for me because, you know, the young vote is not 100% yet, right? It's going up, it's getting better, and I think we have to keep working at it, all of us. Young people first and foremost, right? But I also think what I'm starting to realize is how disconnected some young people are from the political system, right? Like they still are because, you know, one of the things we touch on in the film is trust in government and how that has gone down over the past few administrations. Yeah. And I don't think that can be ignored, right? Right. And so, you know, it's everybody, including the elected officials, right? Like realizing that, you know, they cannot be ignored too. Like that's the other part of this, right? Is that the young vote, when I made the film, was just over 30%. Now it's over 40%. So I think there's a part of it where we have to start to educate young people, the ones that are not voting too, about their power.
So is that your next film?
You're not the first person to ask me that.
I figured that.
Yeah, you know, I would love to do a follow-up to this because I think it'll be interesting to see.
The world needs it.
Yeah, and quite honestly, I'm very hopeful about this election. Right. But I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there are a lot of issues that have come up since 2020 that I think could impact the young vote. And I'm optimistic given, you know, some of the data on young voter registrations going up. But I don't think that this is a one-time thing, right? Like that's
I agree.
Kind of the thing I've learned about system change is that it takes time. Yes. Right? And as long as you're making progress, you're heading in the right direction. Right. So I feel like the young vote is making progress because it has gone up since 2016 consistently. Yeah. We're still not there. Yeah. I think that there's some structural issues that the young people touch on in the film. Yeah. Around voter suppression, being able to vote online. Like there are a lot of structural things that could be done to make it easier, not just for young people, but for a lot of people to vote in this country. And, you know, as Bradley said in the film, you know, the system right now is sort of set up to repel voters. Yes. So this is not all on young people. It's on our structure.
It's on a structure.
And there's a reason why it's structured that way. Yeah. It's to keep things the way it is.
Exactly. And that's how it always goes, right? But we got to get in the room and at the table or get someone that represents us at the table to make those decisions to fix the structure.
That's right. And I'd like to see more young people at that table, actually.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly. Let's hop on over to the distribution of this of your film.
We're so excited.
Why are you so excited?
Well, I mean, that was always my goal when I made this film. I wanted it to reach as many young people as possible. Like I decided to use film as a platform for change because you could reach so many more people through film. So, you know, we've had educational distribution since we premiered the film at the African American Film Festival.
And congratulations, you won there, right?
You know, we didn't win an award, but we won a few awards along the way, which you know, is
I mean, come on. I mean, it's your first film.
I know, it's crazy.
Like, good Lord. Yeah. You know what I mean?
We're very grateful. Yeah. And I think it's a testament to the story. Yes. And the fact that people are asking, like, are you going to make a follow-up to this?
You got to make a follow-up.
I would love to. But to answer your question, we are now on PBS. We're streaming on PBS Passport. Nice. And local PBS stations actually have access to the film through NETA. And so it's going to, actually, San Diego screening it tomorrow. PBS in New Jersey is going to screen it and in New York. And I'm hoping Y will pick it up also, which is your local PBS station, if I'm not mistaken. And I think they were planning on screening it sometime soon.
Well, we need to hear at DETV. Delaware station. We need it here.
I know. Well, we can talk about that.
Okay.
We
all
can
right.
figure that out.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, we're excited that like nationally now
Yeah.
people can watch the film on PBS Passport. You know what's interesting is I made the film for young people,
Right.
but so many people have watched the film
Yeah.
who are my generation and older who have said, "Wow, I didn't know that."
Right.
You know,
Right.
which to me as somebody who's a former educator, I'm like, "Yes." But there's a lot to learn about why the young vote isn't where it needs to be.
Right.
That I think impacts us all.
Yeah, I
You
agree
know?
wholeheartedly. Look, I know you got to get out of here, and I would love to continue a conversation. I could zoom you in from Compton or wherever you
Well,
are.
I
on
live
the
in
planet.
Miami now.
Okay. Oh,
Well, I hope it's still there.
Wherever you are, where the good sun is, I would love to continue conversation just to keep up with you to see, what else you're doing in the community. And I love change agents and what we call capeless superheroes.
Well, it's wonderful to be here, and thank you so much for coming out tonight and watching the film and for
Yeah.
having me here.
No, my pleasure.
And for the work you're doing.
Oh, I'm just stretching. I'm not doing anything yet. But when you do see the run, you're gonna see it. Now, do me a favor, Ms. Robinson. That's your camera right there, right
Yes.
behind me. Tell the community anything you want.
Yeah.
All right, about the film, where to find it, all that good stuff.
Yes.
All right.
So please, Wilmington, Delaware, watch The Young Vote on PBS Passport or on your local TV station, PBS station affiliate. And I hope everyone watching this will get out and vote. Vote for your own interests, for your family's interests, for your community's interests, but just vote.
There you go. There you have it. You have a website or social media people
Yes,
to follow you?
You can go to www.yardgirlproductions.com and you can follow not just this film, but all the work that I do. Or you can also go to the film website for theyoungvotefilm.com.
Jamaican background?
Yes. How did you know that? From the Yard Girl
Yard
production.
girl. Yard girl.
I'm a yardie.
I love
a
it.
yardie.
I love it. It's your main man, Big Ivy, talking to town. Be sure to go to
Productions.com.
yardgirlproduction.com. Check Diane Robinson out and go out, go vote. Like there's no more. I'm not gonna say anything else. I'm not gonna tell you who to vote for. I'm just gonna say go vote and change your community, and then also go back and change the world. It's your main man, Big Ivy, talking to town, Mr. DETV. I see you on the other side of greatness, which is extreme greatness. I'm going to say that. And be sure to follow, like, subscribe, and share. All right? See you on the other side.